All right, we should be good to go.
All right, are we ready to go, Sarah?
Yep, go ahead.
Call to order the January 13th, 2021 meeting of the Victorian Village Commission. We are meeting via WebEx pursuant to Section Substitute House Bill 404, Section 12. Our next business meeting will be Wednesday, January 27th, 2021, and not 2020 as the agenda states. It likewise will be held virtually via WebEx, and our next commission hearing, such as this one, will occur on Wednesday, February 10th, 2021, again by WebEx. Sarah, are you the staff who should be sworn today?
Yes.
Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you will give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Sarah Medley.
Thank you. Let's introduce the commissioners present. Kevin Sullivan is a newly appointed commissioner. Kevin, are you here?
I'm here.
Could you tell us just a little bit about yourself for those of us who have not had the opportunity to meet and talk with you yet?
I'm a relatively new resident of Victorian Village. We moved here about a year ago, purchased a nice little townhome over by Goodale Park, and we've kind of fell in love with the neighborhood and got involved with the Short North Civic Association and was looking for a way to get involved and reach out to the community, and thought this would be an interesting opportunity. Professionally, I'm a project manager for Shift Collective, working on my architectural license right now, about a third of the way through the exams. Recently passed my interior license and exam as well. So I've been working on projects in higher ed, K-12, and commercial, and have been fortunate to work on National Register properties and presented on the other side of the table to different commissions, and also work with the City of Powell as their advisor as well.
Thank you, Kevin. Also, we have Tom Siwo, a newly appointed commissioner. Would you like to tell us something about yourself, sir?
Sure. So hello, everyone there. My name is Thomas Siwo. I've been in Columbus for about 10 years now. I grew up in a small town about an hour southwest of Ohio called Xenia. Some of you may be familiar with the historical tornadoes there over the years. But nonetheless, I started out in German Village and have mostly lived downtown in Columbus here, where I was pretty active with their civic association. And I'm currently on Harrison Avenue here in Victorian Village / Harrison West. And so being involved and living downtown Victorian Village is undoubtedly my favorite neighborhood. And I have always been interested in the architecture and development that has gone on while maintaining, the historical nature of the neighborhood. And so I'm very excited to be a part of the group here. Similar to Jack, I came here for law school, and so by trade, I'm an attorney, is what I do. So much it.
Thank you. Commissioner Moriarty, are you here?
Present.
Commissioner Kotheimer?
Here.
Commissioner Conyers? Commissioner Hissam?
Here.
I am our chair, Jack Decker, and I am also here. All right.
We have a public forum today. So
that is what Mr. Wheeler is doing here.
yeah, so we have Kevin Wheeler here to talk to y'all.
Please, sir, what have you to say to us?
Thank you.
What
Chair
kind of
Decker.
trouble are we in now?
You're in no trouble. Thank you, Chair Decker, and it's nice to see some of you that I've already met and see some of the new commission members. I'm Kevin Wheeler, and I have been with the city for a long time, for a portion of that time as the planning administrator. So I'm real familiar with the work that you all do, and I'm going to be pretty quick here today because I know you've got a full agenda as usual. But I wanted to share some news with you about the city's zoning code. The focus that I have with the city is growth policy, and that growth policy extends to sort of long-range strategies around growth. And one of the things that we've been looking at is the need to update our zoning code. And, you all know, as as a commission, what zoning is and the fact that it's distinct from policy and guidelines. What you may not know is that the city has not updated its zoning code in a comprehensive way since the 1950s. Very little of the code, perhaps none of the code, remains from that time period, but all of the updates, and there have been many, have been incremental. And so one of the things that we are thinking about is that as we look into the future, it's really important for us to better align the code to prepare for that future. This slide just shows how the city's history of territorial growth on the left side, these are square miles added per decade, has waned. So in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, we were growing dramatically. And in fact, in 1950, the city was 40 square miles. Today, we're 220. On the right, that's population growth. And that's been a very steady increase. And unlike territorial growth, that's expected to continue. So we're anticipating another 300,000 people roughly in the next 30 years coming to Columbus, the city exclusively. And while that sounds like a really high number, that's about what we've had in the last 30 years. So it's pretty much staying the course. The difference is that most of that growth is going to be in the existing city rather than accommodated through territorial expansion. And, you know, as a central city neighborhood, Victorian village, and the work that you all do, you're kind of ahead of the curve on understanding what that really means. Growth trends, I'm not going to linger on this slide, just recognizing again that the form of our growth is changing, and in some ways the preferences are changing. People are living longer, families tend to be smaller, people are interested in smaller homes. Single-family homes on large lots will continue to be part of the growth dynamic. It's just that it's going to be a smaller and smaller portion of the market. So we've been asking these questions about the future. How will we grow? Where are people going to live and work? How are they going to get around? What will our neighborhoods look like? And then how will we build opportunity for our residents? And we have work underway in a number of key areas that I could talk to you about in another context, but today I'm just going to give you a couple more slides, a few more slides on zoning. As we look to the zoning code, I mean, among the questions that we're really asking are, how do we accommodate the future growth that we've talked about? How do we encourage affordable housing, which is becoming an increasingly big problem for the city? Are there ways that we can look at the zoning code in the context of equity? Zoning has often been used as a tool to exclude in the past. Can we look at it in more proactive ways to promote equity? Talking about design guidelines, not just for design review commissions, but for other areas. Looking at the ways that zoning and transit interact. Any number of things that we want to be considering as we look at an update to the code. So we have two phases of the update. We're currently in the first phase. This is an assessment of the existing code and creation of an update strategy. And as we assess the existing code, we're looking at the technical elements of the code, the process of zoning, rezoning variances, the degree to which the code aligns or does not align with city policies. And then we're going to be taking the results of that analysis to formulate a strategy for moving into phase two, a priority, a sort of a game plan for the actual update of the code itself. And this current work, phase one, goes through next summer. Phase two, hoping to get that underway next fall. And when I say next, I mean this summer, 2021, and this fall, 2021. And then in phase two, as I said, we'll be updating the code, and that's going to be a pretty intense process. A fundamental question for us as we do this work is, how can we do this in a way that reaches out to community stakeholders along the way? And how can we do this in a way that reaches portions of our community that we don't always get to hear from? When we do the typical public outreach, you know, there are certain folks that are more clued in and they're going to engage, but we often don't hear from some portions of the community that we want to maybe take some extra efforts to reach. So at this point, you all don't need to do anything except that in the next week or two, you'll be getting an email with a survey. We're hopeful that you'll take a few minutes to look at the survey, fill it out. It's just an attempt on our part to gain a broader perspective of folks who interact with the code. And we want you to be able to ask us questions as this unfolds. Just feel free to reach out to either myself, Kevin Wheeler, and you can talk to Sarah if you missed this slide, and I will share this presentation with Sarah, or Tony Calabrese if you know Tony, either one of us. So this is just a heads up, and be on the lookout for an email from us. So if you have questions, I'll take them, but I know you've got a big agenda, so I don't want to linger. Thank you.
Any quick questions for Kevin? Comments? Kevin, I just point out that as an historic preservation commission, of course, we make zoning variance recommendations, and it is highly unusual for us to have a new build project from a garage to a big apartment building that does not include variance recommendations. Which suggests to me that the zoning code has fallen far out of tune with the needs of an historic neighborhood like ours. So I'm sure you know that already.
I do. And one quick fact, one bonus fact I'm going to share with you guys is that we looked at 10 years of city council zoning action. So that's all rezonings and council variances. And in that 10-year period, 96% of all actions resulted in site-specific conditions, either through planned districts or council variances or limitation text. And so that really begins to underscore, in addition to what Jack just pointed out regarding variances and so on in central city neighborhoods, that, it's time to look at the base code. So you guys understand that, and we look forward to any input you can share with us. So thank you very much.
And thank you.
Kevin. Hey, Sarah, could you please send that deck out to all of us, and I'll share it with the Short North Foundation Board?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. All right. Do we have a motion to enter the staff approvals into the record?
I'll move.
That's Conyers. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Hissam. Any discussion? We need to take all votes by roll call in our WebEx way of proceeding. Sullivan.
Yes.
Sebo.
Yay.
Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissam.
Yes.
Yes. All right. It is done. Approval of minutes from the December 9, 2020 meeting. Have we looked at them, and do we have a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve as submitted.
Second. That's Hissam. Second.
Second.
Second. Who was it? That was Kodheimer. Thank you. Discussion. All right. Sullivan.
Yes.
Sebo.
Yay.
Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissam.
Yes.
Decker, yes. They are approved. All right. Staff recommended applications. What have we, Sarah?
The first application is at 1031 Neal Avenue. This is a property that was reviewed and approved already. So it was a carriage house garage that was approved for demolition at the June VVC hearing, with final construction plans approved at the September hearing. And I see on the staff reports, I wrote smooth clapboard hardy, but it should just be, I believe, smooth horizontal siding, hardy, not clapboard though, in a 4-inch exposure. What was previously approved was a 6-inch nickel gap siding. The applicant feels that that nickel gap is too modern and too formal, so they prefer the simple horizontal siding. They're also proposing to change a window configuration on the second floor east and west elevations from 3 windows to 2 windows on each elevation, And they'd like to remove the transom that they proposed over the south elevation door. It seems that the new window configuration and narrower hardy would relate better to the cladding and design of that historic age garage that was approved for demolition. So staff's opinion is that this is an improvement. Staff would recommend approving the application as submitted. That's based on the following codes and guidelines, particularly 3116.12 standards for new construction, item A, that design elements relate to the existing contributing properties surrounding the new structure. H, which states that the material, texture, and color should relate to and be tempered by the material, texture, and color of adjacent and visually related structures with simplicity preferred. And M, which speaks to the characteristics relating to the surrounding and immediate neighborhood as well.
Do we have an applicant representative with us today?
Yes, we have urban order. And I'll also make one more note that this came in as 1029 Neil the first two times y'all saw it, but it now has its own address, which is 1031.
And Sarah, while I'm swearing a witness, if you could send me another agenda, the links do not work in the one I have.
Yeah.
Who's here for urban order?
Dean Burlon.
Dean, do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very well. Do you have anything to add to what's been presented already?
No, I think Sarah summed it up pretty well, but I'm happy to answer any questions. So.
Discussion. Commissioners, what have you to say about this?
I'm fine with it.
I think it's an improvement.
I like the 2 windows over the 3. I think it's an improvement.
2.
I would agree with everyone. No concerns at all.
Oh, wait a minute. There we go. All right. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve as submitted.
That's Moriarty. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry. Did we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second Hissom. Any further discussion? Damn it. Excuse me for swearing at my phone during the meeting. All right, let's vote. Sullivan.
Yes.
Siwo.
Yay.
Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissom.
Yes, that behavior is unbecoming of a chairman. I just want you to.
Well, we're going to vote on officers at the end of the meeting, so take that into consideration. Decker, yes. You're approved.
Great. Thank you.
Good luck.
Second is 331 West First Avenue. This is a project that was reviewed in December and that is coming back for further review. The applicant would like to do work to the front and rear yards. So in the front, they'd like to add a concrete path on the east side of the porch, remove and replace a 6-foot wooden gate. In the rear yard, they'd like to remove 4 plum trees, add the stone veneer and limestone coping around the swim spa that approval was already given to install the swim spa itself. So this is for the surround. They'd like to add a patio and pathway and a fire pit and replace a wooden fence and add a wooden fence to screen the pool mechanical systems. And then they'd also like to take a stoop that's existing at the rear door and construct a wider wooden stoop. At the business meeting, commissioners suggested that the applicant could consider adding a hood over the door or sheltering the proposed expanded rear stoop to make it more porch-like and less deck-like, which is staff's concern, is that it's becoming too much like a deck. I did not receive additional information regarding that suggestion, from the applicant, but at last month's hearing, commissioners requested a measured plan drawing of the stoop and a drawing of the rear elevation, and the applicant did submit those additional materials. A question that the commissioners had was on the site plan, it shows a grill on the rear stoop. Commissioners just asked that the applicant clarify whether that grill was proposed to be built in or was just there to show the size and layout of a potential stoop area. And then per the removal of the plum trees, staff finds that that's mitigated through planting a row of hornbeam trees. Staff recommendation would be to approve the application with conditions, and that is mainly just concerning that stoop. The condition would be that the rear stoop can be replaced in kind, but should not be expanded west beyond its existing footprint to avoid becoming a deck. That's based on 3116.13, which is the standards for site improvement, as well as the Victorian Village guidelines for porches, which say that lumber and wood decks easily seen are not appropriate. And the applicant is here.
All right, who's here from the applicant or as the applicant?
Will Leonard.
Sorry, Will, where are you? There you are, Will. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
I do.
Very well. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just to respond to the question that came up in the business meeting, the grill is just shown for scale. It's just
that's not part of the project.
No, it's just a piece of furniture. Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to the client, and we're just trying to figure out exactly, what does define a deck within the guidelines. The proposed stoop, I would call it a stoop, is 5'10" by 9'5", just fairly small, and it doesn't really present as a deck. We are certainly open to making it a bit smaller, but it does seem fairly functional as it is proposed, as you can imagine. Using the space. So the client is not able financially to move forward with any sort of hood over the door. So that's kind of where we're at. We're really hoping for some leniency with this. Another thing is, that this stoop is not in public view of any way. It can't be from any property line. They'll be hedging around the property, so it's going to be completely contained within the property. That's my comments.
Thank you. So discussion. I do not know of anything in our guidelines that specifically defines a deck. It's kind of like some obscenity. We know when we see it. But we generally try to keep rear porches porch-like as much as is practicable.
Yeah, and actually there's a couple that have popped up in the neighborhood that we need to discuss after the meeting that are definitely deck-like versus porch-like.
So what, architects, what do we do with this? If anything.
I know we've allowed sort of platforms, I think we called them, that were separated from the house. I think if it's separated, so it's not like a read as an addition onto the historic structure, that could be allowable.
I don't know if that solution works here.
I don't know if it works here. I'm just saying there's the fact that it's attached to the building makes it lend itself to needing to look like a porch with the characteristics of the house. but if it was separated, it could be different.
Well, do we have any problem extending this stoop to basically fill up the area between, I guess it's a hot tub in the corner of the house, sideways?
I mean, I guess I think this platform is basically convenient for the hot tub. It has nothing to do with the architecture. And that's what I'm a little bit perplexed by it, because it's just as easy to step that down versus having that platform.
I mean, that's the whole point of it, clearly, is to access the hot tub. So it's not really, it's not part of the house. So I don't know if there's a way it could be disengaged from the house and be attached to the hot tub. I think
move the hot tub back from the house and have a stair and platform alongside it to get in and out. Is that what you're talking about?
I think there was years ago on Park Street, there was someone did sort of a platform disengaged. Might have even been your design.
But what are we talking about? Are we talking about something big all around the hot tub, or it's just something that enables you to get in and out of the thing?
I think it's something that basically here, but what he's showing, but not attached to the house.
See, I think then we start getting into dangerous water about how big is that platform to be able to get in and get out of it. And whether it's attached to the house or sitting out in the middle of your yard, it's something that elevates you. And I think this is interesting because we are having code talks right now. One of the things, no one likes to see your neighbor's head and body while you are down in your backyard and someone's up that high, which is it's kind of not natural.
Well, there is a heavy hedge to the west of that stoop, beyond the 6 foot tall fence. There's no real visual connection.
I mean, I would agree with my fellow commissioners. Is there a way to potentially, address the needs for the hot tub in a similar manner as how you're addressing the needs of access to the pool? And those are, so to speak, separate elements or separate kind of vertical follies that are within the landscape. And then you address, and then you address the stoop and the items that are really addressing egress or ingress into the home or to the backyard, so to speak, separate, instead of, just based upon adjacency, this element trying to solve that earlier mentioning of access to the hot tub. I think that's what Liesl and team is probably trying to mention.
Could we pull the stoop back a couple feet so it's not as imposing, meaning pull it, just make it smaller from both dimensions, but only a couple feet? Would that be appropriate? Because then we could have a much less pronounced stoop, along with the functionality of accessibility to the hot tub. Would that be appropriate?
I think that's your answer, because I don't think you have room to move the hot tub anywhere and create a different access to it, right?
So, hey, Sean,
Yes,
so what would be the minimum stoop for that from a code perspective?
Well, you need egress, so it'd probably be about 4 or 5 feet, if I'm not mistaken.
So, and what is it now?
It's 5 feet 10 off the house,
right,
by 9'5", and we're willing to bring that in if this commission feels it's necessary.
I'm sorry, how far does it go from the house? 9'5"?
No, it comes off the house 5 foot 10 inches.
That's your proposal, is 5 feet 10 inches?
Exactly, and then the stoop is 9 foot 5 inches wide.
See, I don't have a problem with the width. And I think if you brought it back to like 3 feet, that would be tiny.
Well, I think because it's not just this specific situation. We always continuously set a precedent on this stuff, even though there's a hedge and no one can see it. I think it should be the depth of what code says is an actual egress standard, which is, 3.9 or 4 point. I don't care about the width either, but the depth, I think, is the killer.
I just have a logical problem with saying that if it's bigger than the bare minimum for a stoop, it's not a stoop anymore. I think it's site specific, and it has a lot to do with what it reads. But one way or another, we're getting in the neighborhood of a minimal stoop if we pull it back of 18 inches or 2 feet, because we're 5.5 now, right?
Yeah, I misspoke. It's 36 from an egress perspective.
So it's 3 foot.
36 inches.
Yes, sir.
So we're really very close to that if we pull it back a foot, 2 feet, right?
It's currently 48 inches off of the house. The existing pressure treated stoop is 48 inches. It's much skinnier, obviously.
The plan, though, is for how far?
5'10" off of the house.
Okay.
So I think it needs to be brought down to 36 then.
Okay.
I think it can stay wide, but I think it needs to be pulled back to its. So it is a stoop. It's not a access desk to the tub. It's not an access desk so I can do my cooking on it. It's a stoop.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to reiterate the comment from the business meeting where if you were to put a roof over this, it would turn into a porch, and you could have it be as large as you're showing here, the 5x9. But we would have to review those extra drawings if you're open to that.
Yeah, apparently that's off the table. Is that correct? Because of cost?
That's correct.
You'd prefer to just pull it back? All right. Anyone else? Any other issues with this proposal other than the depth of the stoop?
So my question, Jack, is the 36 inches that Sean found in code, is that a minimum depth for a stoop for egress, or is that the maximum?
I believe, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that was the minimum.
That is correct.
And I don't think we should marry ourselves to saying anything more than the minimum is not a stoop. But on the other hand, I think here, for something this wide, that makes sense.
Could we go less wide and give me a little bit more stoop landing?
I'll say staff's recommendation, if you guys want to, is just to replace it in kind. So if it is 48 inches, if you were to replace it in kind, that could be considered appropriate too.
Yeah, I don't think you want to have something like you've got now there. I think it does make sense to widen that.
But we could approve a 48-inch depth, which is what is existing.
Right, that's what I was asking. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Is an additional foot a killer for anyone else?
No, sir.
No.
From a usability standpoint, no, it wouldn't be. I think it would still be similar to being in kind, and it still would be considered a stoop. In theory,
we have a motion.
You can't program.
Yeah, are we ready to have a motion?
So moved.
What are we moving? Moving to approve as submitted, but the depth of the stoop is to be no greater than 48 inches.
Exactly. So approve staff's recommendation with those limiting conditions.
The limiting condition being the 48-inch depth of the stoop.
Correct.
Very well.
And are you guys okay with the proposed new width? Or
I
what-
believe so. I think so. Are we?
Yeah, that would be the motion.
Further discussion. Oh, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Sullivan. Discussion. Think we're ready to vote. Sullivan,
Yes.
Siwo,
Yay.
Moriarty,
Yes.
Kodheimer,
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissom.
Yes.
Decker, yes. Motion passes, sir.
All right, thanks, everybody.
You have a good day.
You too.
Next. What have we next?
We are at 240 West 2nd Avenue. This is a historic age dwelling that is being proposed to have a hardy clapboard siding installed on top of the existing asbestos siding. The proposed siding would be 7-inch exposure with 4-inch trim, and they're proposing to retain the decorative fish scales in the gable ends. Commissioners at the business meeting requested a photo that showed what materials beneath the asbestos siding. The applicant did submit some photographs, though they were of a fairly small area. Staff agreed with the commissioners that the applicant should determine the existence or condition of any historic age siding prior to considering new siding. From the photos, while the test area was pretty small, it does seem to indicate that there is not a historic age siding or an original siding beneath that asbestos. If you're comfortable moving forward without a larger test area. Staff's recommendation would be to approve the application with conditions. And the conditions would be that that new siding should have a 4-inch exposure to meet VVC guidelines. The proposed exposure is 7 inches, which staff finds to be too wide. Additionally, a condition would be that the window, door, corner boards, and other trim work are built out to maintain a 3-dimensional appearance. This is coming from the Victorian Village guidelines for siding. If you see item 6 particularly speaks to replacement siding, where the siding with the appearance of shiplap or clapboard should be 3-inch or 4-inch slats, depending on the profile of the original, should be smooth rather than textured, and that details should be built out to maintain a 3-dimensional appearance. Under the not appropriate of the VVC guidelines, it says that item 4, when new siding is installed over old, failure to build out windows and door frames is considered not appropriate, as well as siding wider than 4 inches is not considered appropriate. And this comes from the standards for alteration, 3116.11, particularly item 11, which says that exterior cladding shall be consistent with the original materials, which may not be extant, but were likely not 7-inch exposure. The applicant is here.
All right, applicant, identify yourself, please.
Hi, it's Patrick McMahon.
Yes, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Are you the owner or architect? What are you?
I'm the owner. I just purchased a house in October.
Excellent. Do you have anything to add?
No, just the 7-inch siding is actually, we saw that there's a house, I think 2 houses up that have the same type of design. So we're essentially mirroring that design. Quite honestly, any improvements gonna make the curb appeal look pretty appealing. So we've seen that with other houses on that block, and we just want to align with those houses.
Thank you. Discussion. I have a quick question, since I already have the floor. Where exactly did you remove the siding to see what was underneath?
Yeah, so that's a question for Jamie and TJ. I'm not sure if you guys are on from Feasel.
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay.
Who are you?
My name is TJ Johnson. I'm with Feasel.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
I do.
Where is it that you looked?
It's in the original portion of the house, facing the road off of Second.
So it's basically the front of the house, original portion?
Exactly.
Is it is it real low along the skirting next to the foundation, or where?
It was not. It's probably 6 feet off the ground. On the, I did an edge corner just in case you guys denied this. I didn't want to make it really difficult on him.
Excellent.
Colin, can you scroll down? The pictures that they submitted are after these ones. Keep going. There you go. 14. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw it, but I couldn't quite tell what it was. All right.
So that's, I mean, there's a number of renovations that need to be made, and that's just one of them. But we did look at some of the other houses, and that's really we came up with that idea of the 7-inch type of siding. So it aligns with the other houses on that street.
We have some architecture in the village which predates historic controls and isn't necessarily appropriate either. So
the houses look newer to me. I think one of them has been built over the past I'm just saying 5 or 6 years, and the thick or the it was about, I think it was 7 inches.
Yeah, this isn't a new build though. So all right, yeah, discussion. Anybody?
Just trying to find an example of another house that has a 7-inch exposure that is not asbestos.
I think if you go 2 houses up, it's 2 houses up, and then there's another house. Actually, the next 2 houses have that type of design.
There's there's 2 new builds right there where the intersection tees. I don't think there's 7 though, but even if they are, they shouldn't be.
I would agree with that point.
Yep. We have got, there's no reason to deviate from the guidelines when we're doing this. This house needs to be brought back to something closer to its original appearance before it got asbestosized.
I would agree.
Do we have any other issues? Should we make approval contingent on taking a couple other corners off before we cover it back up?
I personally think that uncovered area is too small to determine anything. I don't know if there could be a site visit or something somebody could look at it in person.
You've seen the pictures of the house, right? It's any improvement to that house with that hardy plank siding is a dramatic improvement. So if we take out additional pieces to that, I mean, I don't see the value, or what are we trying to get at?
This is just the process we go through with everybody.
The process is if most of this original siding is intact and it can be restored, then that is the preferable option.
Which would be a significant cost to me.
Yes.
I probably wouldn't even do anything at that point.
Well,
so any improvement, from my perspective, you're putting hardy plank on there. It's a very attractive looking type of siding. Any improvement is beneficial. If I go back to the original siding, I'm not going to do it.
Patrick,
I'm just not gonna. I'll just leave it as is.
Patrick, I'm really. I mean, I'm 99.999% confident that is not going to be original siding there. So if they want to do more samples, I'm more than comfortable with going out there and doing a cut.
Oh, and my response is I don't want to cut any more into the into the building.
I got you.
I've already put enough money into the property.
My suggestion would be to approve the hardy plank with the staff conditions with respect to the siding, with respect to trim and corner boards and reveal. But to add to condition that the contractor, as they're beginning work, confirm that we don't have any existing siding underneath there by taking a couple more samples. Because one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to find lots of siding and then you can just put your two samples back and not do anything, or you won't find anything and you can proceed with your project if the rest of the commissioners think that's a solution.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the downside of that is if we find additional pieces or we think the siding's like halfway decent, I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm not going to do anything with the property. I'm just going to leave it as is.
Very well. That's your bargain. Then you put your stuff back and not do anything with your property.
But I mean, isn't the purpose to improve the curb appeal and to improve the properties? I mean, that would.
We're an historic preservation commission, sir.
Okay.
But I also think there are a lot of houses that have been successfully done that they leave the asbestos in place, and it's about trim boards and paint.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Yeah. So our trim boards that we're going to do with the Hardy are going to be about 3/4 inches more in depth as far as exposure. It'll stick out that much more because he's doing all of his window trim in Hardy board and all of his corners as well.
So you're going to pull off all the existing trim and put new trim that's deeper.
That is correct. So the only thing we're not going to take off is the asbestos, but all your wood products around the windows, those will be eliminated.
And so the additional 3/4 reveal will basically compensate for the extra hardy depth that you're putting on the building.
Exactly.
All right. Any other discussion? Any ideas or suggestions? Am I barking down up the wrong tree or the right one here?
Just another clarification is on some of the elevations. It looks like one that it faces third. I'm just thinking about depth. So is the depth, or what is the depth of siding, new siding, as it relates to the existing fish scales, which I'm presuming that the existing fish scales and those details that are in the gable ends will remain?
So it's going to be we're going to do new fishtails on there, but it's essentially going to look exactly the same, except with new aesthetically, the color is going to be different.
So you're also going to redo the trim around the gable windows and all that?
We're redoing the trim on everything on the entire house. Or proposing that.
I will just clarify that I did not understand that you're proposing to remove and replace the fish scales in the gable end. So staff's opinion for that would generally be to repair what is existing.
Okay.
Plus what's there is in poor condition. Nolan, can you find a photo and maybe zoom in? I think it would be one of the larger photos of like an entire elevation. So if anything, I think I would say I would need to consider that further. I'm not prepared to make a complete recommendation without knowing the condition of the fish scales as they are.
I mean, the whole outside is a disaster. I'm not sure what we're.
Well, what's wrong with the fish scales?
They're just chipping off a little bit. I mean, it's not they're not rotting by any means, but they're starting to lose some of their texture, and some of them have broken off. They're on every gable end, so the front of the house and the two sides.
Yeah, I've just been looking at the street view and it's a little bit better lit, I think. it looks like it's from 2019, so I don't know if things have deteriorated since then, but the fifth scales look to be fine condition. I will say that a lot of times when people in the neighborhood are looking to cover or replace their siding, it's because the siding has started to fall off on its own, and then you can more clearly see what's underneath it. Yours is not in that bad of a state that you're already being able to see what's underneath it. So unfortunately, the only way to find out is to take off some on purpose.
Yeah, I walk by this house frequently and have not noticed, it certainly didn't jump out to me, oh, look at this lousy gable end.
Oh, I'm not meaning that by any, I'm not saying that by any means.
Yeah.
It's like deteriorating where there's squirrels getting in it, but, you know, it definitely, it's one of the things, either he paints, you know, he can paint it too, you know, that would be the other option.
I'm not going to paint it.
Well,
the issue that I was referring to is has been clarified a little bit, because I see that there is a horizontal trim board. I didn't realize, based upon the proposal, that the gable ends were being improved or proposed to be improved. I was more so considering, you know, the transition of what that elevation looks like in terms of depths when the horizontal siding meets up with the existing fish scales. There is a horizontal trim board that would allow you to make that transition.
Yep.
Yeah, from that standpoint that I can see now in the photograph, but that's what I was really referring to, is the transition between the two materials.
That's correct. So on anything with hardy, wherever you have two separate materials, you always use it. That's called a band board. It separates the division between two different textures.
So you'd put a band board there that would allow you to not only separate the two textures, but have a 3/4 inch setback, more or less, between your hardy board on the side of the house and your fish scale.
That's correct.
Anything else?
Not on my end.
Commissioners? Do we have a motion of some sort?
It sounds like we need to have a site visit if there's not enough support for a motion.
Well, support for what? I mean, if it turns out that the there is nothing saving underneath the existing asbestos siding, do we not agree that 4-inch hardy plank with appropriately detailed corner and trim boards is appropriate?
I think that's correct, but we need to better determine the siding situation. So there needs to be a site visit.
Sarah, in the world of site visits, you ordinarily don't go up to people's houses and start prying things off, do you?
I don't think I'm allowed to do that.
I don't either. So I don't know that a site visit is the answer.
I'm not sure if there's enough space between what you've already taken off to peek behind it, but it looked to be pretty tight.
Yeah, my only suggestion is that we rely on the contractor to tell us if he finds anything unexpected under a couple other samples, and then go ahead and change it. But if somebody else has a different idea, let me know.
Can we require them to submit some photos to staff for whatever they do find, and while continuing the work ahead?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, assuming that staff finds that there's nothing, no issue with respect to what's underneath it, that we approve something. Because I think it's sounding to me like at least some people think that the odds are pretty low that you're going to find preservable siding under there, right? But as a matter of due diligence, we need to make sure. Is that fair?
That's fair.
I agree.
So why don't we structure it in such a way that we can do that, staff can look at the pictures, and then the owner can go ahead and do something appropriate that we approve if staff finds the pictures are support doing that.
So does that require us to come back? Because we want to start.
If we structure it in that way, you're good to go, assuming that the staff is happy with the photos you give her.
Okay.
My only remaining concern is the fish scales, which I haven't seen photos of, particularly that show any deterioration or damage in them that would require replacement rather than repair.
My suggestion is that our motion does not approve the fish scale
That is correct.
replacement.
I would agree with that too as well.
But we're not going to do half the job. So TJ, what's your input on that?
I mean, I think we can get better, more thorough photos and up close just to show the deterioration to an extent, and then that can be based on approval at a later date.
Okay, so do you want to continue your application and come back? Because it sounds to me like you want to withdraw it unless you can have the whole enchilada, right?
I just it's from a curb appeal perspective, we want to. It just doesn't make much sense to do that. So.
We have a lot of houses with multiple materials on them. You've got one with stone. All right, so let's have a motion to continue this. And since you, it might not be a bad idea to come back with another sample or two of what's underneath your siding if you choose. Otherwise, we'll work with that when we can. Do we have a motion to continue?
So moved.
I'm sorry, that was Codeheimer. Aaron, second.
Second.
Discussion. All right, Sullivan.
Yes.
Siwo.
Yay.
Moriarty.
Yes.
Codeheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Issam.
Yes.
Decker, yes. It is continued. See you next time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
We are moving to High Street at 965 North High Street. This is the White Castle Buildings drive-through. The applicant would like to install 2 murals and an advertising image within the interior drive-through per the submitted drawings. The graphics would be vinyl applied to brick. And in this instance, staff's opinion is that the commissioners should limit discussion to just how visible this advertising image is from the right of way, since the drive-through itself could be considered interior space or on-site branding. Per the Short North design guidelines, this advertising image is not a mural since it includes commercial language and imagery. Staff's recommendation for this project would just be to move that advertising image further into the drive-through so it's not as visible from the right of way. And this is taken from the Short North design guidelines, the guidelines on murals, which say that murals would not have any commercial language or imagery like logos, and that murals must not be used for any form of public information or solicitation. And the signage guidelines, which again speak to advertising for goods and services, where that should be a window sign for its best display. That's it, really.
Do we have anyone from the applicant here?
Yes, Randall Sistrunk from Orangeboro Media.
Mr. Sistrunk, do you swear from the testimony you will give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You've frozen. You've gone away. Where is Mr. Sistrunk?
I'm seeing a bandwidth error.
Is that what that little thing is in the upper left? There you are.
Hey,
Mr.
I can see it.
Sistrunk, are
I
you
can
with
see
us now?
everybody on my end. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you disappeared when you were being sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
Yes.
Very well. Do you have anything to add?
I guess I just have a couple comments. I wasn't clear on, so is this considered a mural or is this not considered a mural? I wasn't really clear on that because you talked about the Short North guidelines related to murals versus on-premise advertising.
I'll just quickly say on staff's input, this right here that's just shown is a mural.
No,
the next one would not be considered a mural since it has commercial imagery in it.
So if it's not considered a mural.
The thing that says White Castle Long Live Sliders is an advertisement.
Correct.
It's not an art mural.
She referenced the Short North mural
design guidelines.
Design guidelines. And so my question is, if this isn't a mural, why are we being held to the Short North design guidelines for murals?
The Short North design guidelines just generally guide all design and development in the Short North. So it's saying that this is not a mural. So because it's not a mural, it shouldn't be displayed as prominently. So you'd want to make sure that any on-site branding is on-site branding. It's an advertisement. So whatever y'all want to do within the drive-through is totally allowable and up to you. But because we're guiding these decisions based on the Short North design guidelines and because it's very visible from the right of way, that's why my recommendation is to move it in further so that the advertisement specifically speaks to your customers in the drive-through and it doesn't display itself to people walking by.
Mr. Sistrunk, here's the missing piece from what Sarah just tried to explain to you.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that says White Castle Long Live Sliders is not a mural, it is a sign. And we have separate guidelines on signs, and this is several quantum times bigger than the sign ought to be. And it's also kind of in the gray area between where a sign would be and where it wouldn't be, since the definition of interior and exterior space in a drive-through is kind of plastic. So I think the solution staff is suggesting is if you put Long Live Sliders somewhere inside and your imagery murals closer to your entrance and exit, you solve your problem.
Correct.
Is there any reason Long Live Sliders has to be there where the people are picking up their food as opposed to somewhere they might see it when they're ordering their food?
Well, no, I understand what you're saying, Chair. I guess I wasn't clear that this was an exterior sign. There's a very small percentage of the sign that's seen from the street. It's over 16 feet away from the sidewalk. So you're literally seeing a small portion of that entire sign. That sign is 18 by 6. So, we would have to, that's a big change for a small piece of a sign that's going to be seen by somebody walking by it. It's not that visible for this change.
This sign is perpendicular to the sidewalk inside the drive-through. Am I right?
Yes, you can see where the picture. About 4 pages into the application, you've got a big picture of the sign from inside the drive-through.
I feel like this is interior. It's obviously a gray area, but I don't think it's really signage. We let people put a sign inside their window. Like we actually suggested that they take the old White Castle sign and put it inside the building at one point.
Well, something on the inside of a window is clearly interior.
But if it's not applied to the window, it's sitting, say it was a freestanding sign that's in the window. Say it was a fixture in a store. I don't think I would consider it a sign.
And when I spoke to the city prior to applying, it wasn't clear for them either. So out of respect for the commission, we thought it made sense to just go through the process because they weren't really sure if this was considered an exterior or interior sign. And so I was hoping, to your point, it seems like an interior sign to me.
Like if you walk by the front of White Castle, you can see brand elements inside the store. I feel like that's what this is.
So my question is, is there any reason why you couldn't move the long-lived sliders to like the parallel portion that's all the way on the inside that's not visible, and that way, nothing against the long-lived sliders, but maybe people would rather see the mural as they're walking down the sidewalk, and therefore both entrances, the entrance and the exit, would have the artistic mural visible from the sidewalk, and that would maybe add to the street character.
I mean, does that change the issue that we have on hand?
Well, I mean, it's odd that long-lived sliders is on the side where basically no customer is looking because their eyes are focused on the delivery window and a transaction. So there's definitely a reason why that sign is on that blank wall.
I agree.
So I would rather see long-lived sliders where that mural is, and the mural wraps around the both sides of it. So you see actually the mural, and the signage language is definitely front and center where people can actually see it.
People driving through the drive-through can see it.
Yep.
So it would be basically just swapping these two walls that are visible right now.
Yep.
Allowing the artistic mural to be seen from the street, which aligns with the public art plan that the Short North has done previously, where we are trying to add art to the Short North District. And since we've established the long-lived sliders is not a mural or art because it has a logo to the neighborhood.
Yep.
You also realize that these are two totally different dimensions, right? So now we're talking about changing the whole. I mean, that mural is pretty large, pretty significant. So now you're talking about placing on an entirely different wall and possibly changing the dimensions of that, of the mural. And so,
is that something that already exists? Is it already created, printed?
It's been designed. Yes. We were under the impression that we were only here to discuss the long-lived slider sign. So we moved forward with the other with the murals.
Now, I agree with the other commissioners. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears they're simply proposing alternative solutions with respect to the long-lived slider sign. So rather than saying, "Hey, that's simply a sign that should not be approved," what is an alternative? That alternative would be swapping those two on that side there. Because frankly, at the end of the day, this is a sign and it is an advertisement. And most people who will see this will be folks walking down that street heading west. And so it is an advertisement for those folks. And so that's the whole purpose. And so if you have anything at all on that side, it should be an artistic mural and not signage that is an advertisement.
So the only difference, based on the comment that I heard earlier from the other commissioners, because this is an open garage versus a window. Because if this was the inside of a White Castle and you were looking through a window, we wouldn't be having this conversation about whether or not the mural should go on one side or the on-premise advertisement should go on one side of a window where people walking by could view it.
That's correct.
Mr. Sistrunk, a window clearly separates interior from exterior space. The problem with this drive-through that's got us scratching our heads is that drive-through does not clearly separate interior and exterior space. And in a definitional desert, I've been thumbing through the code as we speak. It's a matter of interpretation for the commission, how to figure out how this fits in with our different requirements. And I think the safe answer is to swap the signs out. I think the murals are just fine. This is, we would start getting, theoretically, if we approve this, people could doll up their drive-throughs with all kinds of advertising that would could develop into a real eyesore.
I wanted to comment also on the dimensions. It does look like you have enough space because the dimensions that you've provided look like there's 34 feet on the wall that currently showing the long-lived sliders. And the mural that we're seeing here is only 29 feet. So you should be able to swap those out. I understand there's like a grate there, but there's a grate in the rear side of the wall as well. So it would just be the grate in a different location, but dimensionally it should still fit.
All right. Do we have a motion? Or are we ready?
I'm just not sure how to refer to the different walls, I guess, but I'd like to make a motion to approve this application with the change that the long-lived sliders and White Castle logo wall will be on the interior wall of the drive-through and not visible from the street, and that the artistic mural be visible from both the entry and exit of the drive-through. Is that enough information?
Do I also have the option of doing of moving the White Castle sign back as you guys first recommended? Do I have that option as well?
I'm not making a motion.
I'm sorry, you wanted to move the White Castle sign where?
The first recommendation was that we simply move the sign back a few feet. So my question is, would this motion include the option as well, so I can talk to our client to understand the two options they want to explore?
That wasn't the motion that Ms. Moriarty made. I don't know if another commissioner might want to amend it. Do we have a second for Ms. Moriarty's motion?
Well, I think it wasn't given as an option. We were discussing what options for a successful solution would be. I think now that we've seen the walls and we've seen the structure, I don't think the idea of pulling it back would be successful.
I agree. Okay, do we have a second for Ms. Moriarty's motion?
I second her motion and would just specify the interior wall being that northern side of, I get we have a lot of interior, exterior here. So maybe that will help specify a little bit.
Is that, is that how staff understands the motion? You've got it? All right. Does anyone care to amend the motion to provide an option to shorten up the long-lived slider sign? No. All right. So any further discussion?
If I'm understanding this correctly, the motion is to move the long-lived sliders with the mural?
That's
or shouldn't the motion speak to that wall, me having the ability to put a mural on that wall, because that's the only wall that we're discussing right now versus the interior walls and whatever we want to put on those walls.
We're suggesting that that's what the motion is. Now, if do you want an option to get rid of long-lived sliders and have 3 murals?
I think what we should probably do in this situation is take the original, what was proposed, and either vote it up or down, and then we have a new proposal that comes in to say exactly what they want to do, because this is becoming very, very, very gray.
Okay, I agree with Mr. Hissam. Let's table the, are you moving to table the current motion and make a new one?
I'm saying table that motion and basically vote on it as submitted.
So that's a motion to table and approve as submitted. That's part A and B. Do we have a second?
I second that.
All right, let's look at part A to table the motion. Sullivan.
Yes.
Siwo.
Yay.
Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Listen.
Yes.
Decker, yes. Motion tabled. Second, to approve the application as submitted. Sullivan.
No.
Sewo.
Hey.
Moriarty.
No.
Codeheimer.
No.
Conyers. John, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I didn't hear anything. No.
Hissom.
No.
Decker, no. Reason for denial. Help me with this, staff. The long-lived sliders is at least in part an exterior sign and is oversized for a sign.
It's not considered an advertising, or it's not considered a mural because it includes commercial language and imagery, so it would be considered signage.
So that it does not comply, is at least in part an exterior sign. It does not comply with the Short North design guidelines governing the size of exterior signs. Right? Now, would you like us to consider an alternative? Shall we resurrect the motion we already made to approve an alternative that involves switching the two signs?
Can I also say to the applicant that if you wanted to continue this, you could come back with another suggestion in the future.
So that's up to you. What do you want?
No, I'm fine with continuing right now.
You want to continue? All right. Do we have a motion to continue? I'm sorry. Do you want us to vote, or do you want us to? Do you want to come back?
I thought you guys were going to vote on the alternative option of switching the
So
signs.
when you said continue, you don't mean to get a delay. You mean it for us. You want us to vote.
Correct.
That's we are using the word continue in two different senses. We got the right one. All right. Let's bring back the tabled motion and vote on it, which has been made and seconded. Sullivan.
Yes.
Sewo.
Yay.
Moriarty.
Yes.
Codeheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissom.
Yes.
Decker. Yes. Motion passes. There we go. If that doesn't work for you, you're always free to come back with a different application. All righty?
All right. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
All right, next is at 762 Neal. This is a response to a code violation and all work is complete. The applicant added a bluffed in random stone to level the wall and added a limestone cap around the entire wall perimeter. So there was an existing wall there and they built the wall up a bit to be whole again, and they put on a cap. And commissioners at the business meeting stated that they did not need a site plan or any additional information. It's just a note. Photos submitted by the applicant do show that the previous condition did require repair or maintenance. However, in my opinion, it does not appear that the previous condition required immediate intervention that would not have allowed them to first come to the commissioners for review. However, the wall itself does appear to generally meet Victorian Village guidelines. And because of that, staff would recommend approving the application as submitted. This comes from Victorian Village Guidelines, Fences and Yards section, which states that fences facing the street should not be more than 4 feet high. So I interpreted that as a wall as well. And that fences of iron, stone, or wood, but not a hybrid, are considered appropriate.
Do we have an applicant?
Yes, we do.
Who is here? Hello?
Hello?
Is Mr. Butler, are you the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Conyers, please take over. I have to run away. I'll be back. I've been in Zoom meetings for 3 consecutive days and nights, so I'll be back.
Mr. Butler, do you have anything to add?
Not really, other than I realize
Sean, can you swear him in?
I think he just
did. Oh, did we do that? Okay.
I thought Jack swear
Okay.
in already.
That he might have. I
Okay,
was
I'm
taking
sorry.
a note that you guys were switching.
He did.
Okay, no problem. I'm sorry, Mr. Butler. Go ahead,
The,
sir.
the only addition I was going to say is I realized I should have come to the commission first. I wasn't ignoring you. I just, every year I get out there and I start moving the stones around. And this year I just said, well, you know, I'm sick of moving the stones around. Let's get this finished. So before I knew it, I was into the project. It's not an excuse, but that's what happened. That's all that I would add to it is, you know, I tried to make it, keep it in line with the existing. The house has, as you can see, caps on the top of the columns. And there's other houses in the general vicinity that have caps, so I thought that would be the best way to go to make it look good.
Understandable. I turn it over to commission comments.
I guess I would say I don't think we would approve this anywhere if it was proposed.
You wouldn't have?
The design, we would have approved it, but not the materials and how the scale of the actual materials.
Okay.
I think, I mean, I would think that the darker stones would bleach a bit over time in the sun. I think the problem maybe with the cap, if you could, obviously some expense, but go to Lane Stone or somewhere and get a new cap that is a little bit thicker and prouder, so it looks like a cap. That might work.
I have a question. Decker, I just got back, and so I missed everything. Have you tried power washing this?
I power washed the old stones, and they came out whiter than the new darker stones.
Yeah, so the darker ones will bleach in the sunlight over time, though.
Yeah,
So
I can try power washing again as well.
So there won't be such a difference over time. But I think if the cap was a material that's a little bit thicker, which I think would be typical of a cap, you would make it a little thicker than that type of stone. That would be okay. Alternatively, I think you could do it without a cap.
Okay. Yeah, I could.
But you would have to choose the stones a little better. Like you could use the same stone that you're using at the base, but you take all of the thicker pieces and use those as the course. But that would require some sorting and basically rebuilding the whole thing.
I agree with Liesl in that again, that top really needs to be beefed up. It looks like you just have a finished stone like the other ones, and now this one's just finished and you've laid them on top of it.
Yeah, beefed up was the term I was looking for. Yeah.
In other words, thicker.
Thicker.
Yeah.
But again, that type of stone naturally ranges in thickness. Like you'll have some thinner pieces and some thicker ones. So if you were to take all of the thicker ones and put them on top, I think that would look better. Again, you'd have to rebuild the whole wall to do that. I would also probably just remove a course too. It's a little bit high, just aesthetically.
I think you're better off just pulling the cap off and having a regular wall.
That's what I was thinking of doing, you know, if that's what the commission wants. This is all now cemented in place, so it's going to be a heck of a job to get it completely redone.
I'm sorry, is the cap cemented on too?
Correct.
Usually it would be liquid nails on, I think.
How's it attached? Mortar?
Yeah, it's like a reinforced mortar. Not a lot, you know. I didn't want it to look like it was all cemented together, but I wanted it to stay in place. So I guess it'll pop off. I'm not sure. And then just have the regular stone like there is, rather than the cap. I thought the cap would give it a nice finish, but if that's not appropriate, I'll do what you want.
Well, it's not that it's not appropriate, it's the scale of it that's not appropriate.
Because it's not thicker.
Correct.
Would you want another course of the limestone?
Well, no, I mean that finished stone needs to be thicker, not another additional stone to make it look thicker. It needs to be thicker.
Would the cap overhang the existing wall?
Does it? No.
No, but the question is, would it?
Oh, should it?
I'm not an architect. I just play one on TV. I'm asking the question.
I would have.
A dozen. One, it could either be overlapping or it could be flush.
Okay.
I think if it was a 1/2 inch, given the rustic nature of this wall, I think if it overlapped a 1/2 inch to an inch, it would look the most attractive and look proportionally more correct.
Thicker and hang over 1/2 inch?
1/2 inch.
Because this is 9x2, so you're talking about it being
and then you're going to run into a problem there because you're probably, that type of stone only comes usually in 8-inch depths. So you might want to bring it down so it's closer to the soil level. Otherwise, it's going to look funny.
Yeah. Sounds like, well, Commissioner Conyers, I'll let you finish as chair because I just came in late.
All right, go ahead, Jack. But you didn't miss anything, so you're fine from that standpoint, sir.
All right, if I'm not chair at this moment, I will move to approve as submitted with the following changes. Either the top cap is to be removed or it is to be replaced with a thicker cap of what thickness, Liesl?
I would say 3 to 4 inches.
3 to 4 inches, with or without an overhang of up to 1/2 inch, 3/4, something like that, somewhere in there.
Yes, and I would also add to not make the wall any taller, making those changes. So you probably have to remove the cap and a course.
So if you're going to have a cap, you would remove the top course.
Right.
Yeah, and the cap.
Okay. Does the staff understand what my motion was? Everybody else understand it? Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Sullivan.
Very well. Sean?
Who was the second? I got like 3 people at once.
I think Conyers volunteered to be the second. John, do you want to call a question so we can vote? I can't hear us, or I can't hear him. Well, I will resume my chair seat because Tron can't hear. And call a roll. Sullivan.
Yes.
Siwo.
Yeah.
Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
There he is. Hissam.
Yes.
Decker. Yes. There you go. Motion passes. got a couple of options there. Thank you, sir. Mr. Butler, have a good day.
Could I ask one question?
Sure.
How long do I have to do this? It's kind of cold out.
Well, it's a question of staff code enforcement, but you know, ordinarily, I would think you'd have till spring. Does that sound? Is code enforcement going to throw our applicant in jail between now and the spring?
I don't think so. We'll have the COA on record, so if they have questions, they can come in. It's good for a year, so as long as it doesn't expire, I'd imagine we'll be fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Butler, have a good day.
Thank you.
Next.
All right. And just for that last one, was that a Decker motion?
Yeah, I made the motion because Mr. Conyers was chair, and then he gave the chair back to me because we couldn't hear him.
Okay, so it was a Decker
So
motion,
I called the roll.
and then a Conyers second while y'all swapped chair position.
Oh, he seconded it? Oh, boy, that was a mess.
Just double checking. I think we had a couple seconds.
I think that was like a trapeze act while we were in midair. We passed the baton and the second back and forth.
Got it. Okay.
Did you hear somebody else say second about the same time as Mr. Conyers?
I heard 3 seconds.
Who else?
I think there was maybe a Moriarty or a Siwo second, or Sullivan second. I heard a lot.
I think our new commissioner, Mr. Siwo, may have been the second also in place of Mr. Conyers, so your minutes might say that too.
Okay. I really did see everyone pretty much go to second, so I think we're good. Just as long as you guys are all comfortable.
I just don't want to complicate the validity of what we just did based on the fact that we couldn't hear Mr. Conyers.
Right, I understand. Okay, I have my records and we have the recording, so we should be all set.
And just for the record, I have a hard stop at 6.
Okay.
All right, let's keep going. We're slowing down. Where are we?
We are at 1202 to 1204 Forsyth Avenue. This is to do a number of things. Half of this application was reviewed administratively as the first portion. So VV 20-01005A is the stuff that staff reviewed. So what's coming to the commission, after each heading, the number corresponds to the document that the applicant submitted. So they numbered everything they wanted to do. So that's included in the packet with each number next to the description, if that's clear. But so landscaping, the applicant is proposing to remove an existing patio behind each of the sides of the house and to install a new concrete paver patio and a raised planting box between the two sides of the house. The planting box would have 6 boxwoods centered in the planter box. Storm windows, which are item 14 on their list, they'd like to remove the existing storm windows and loose glazing compound, provide a new glazing compound, scrape and repaint the original wood window frames and sashes. And then there's 2 options here. One is to repair and reinstall the existing painted storm windows. The other is to install a new pre-finished storm window. Shingles corresponds to items 15 and 22. The applicant would like to remove the existing shingles and install a GAF slate line shingle. We have GAF slate line shingles in the approved shingles list, but the color they're selecting or proposing, Royal Slate, is not one that is on the approved list. At the greenhouse, that's items 20, 21, and 23. They'd like to replace the existing deteriorated greenhouse door with a custom door, which is submitted in the drawings. Remove the existing corrugated roof and upper wall panels. Install new roofing material. Install painted wood fascia. Install gutters and downspouts. And then install the modern house number 6-inch black house numbers. And that's item 24. So exterior alterations is this next owned section. So commissioners at the business meeting did ask for a document showing a comparison between the proposed color of the GAF slate line shingle and what we have that's already been approved. So I provided that as well. The applicant sent that to me earlier this week too. From taking a look at the colors, this is just staff's opinion, it appears that the approved shingle colors maintain a single or closely comparable tone throughout all the individual shingles, but the royal slate has some variation between the individual shingles with like some brown, green, and blue tones. So it would be staff's opinion that it is not as appropriate as the other colors that are on the approved shingles list. And then installing the fascia on the garage would significantly appear to change its appearance. So staff's recommendation is to approve this with conditions, and those conditions are that the applicant selects a shingle from the approved shingles list. That would just mean a different color than the royal slate. That the garage eaves should remain open, and that the storm windows should be repaired rather than replaced. That comes from the standards for alteration, which is distinguishing characteristics shall not be destroyed, removal and alteration shall be avoided whenever possible, distinguishing distinctive stylistic features and examples of craftsmanship shall be treated with sensitivity, deteriorated features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible. And I also understand that there might be some deterioration or damage to the storm windows that would require them to be replaced. So I would ask the applicant to just speak a little more clearly to that as well. And we do have 2 people here at least for the applicant.
All right, who's here for the applicant?
Earl Rogers.
All right, Mr. Rogers, I can't see you. Oh, there you are, Daryl. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
Yes, I do.
Have you brought anyone with you?
I'll be the only one speaking tonight.
Very well. What have you to say, if anything, in addition to what staff has presented?
I think we should just go down through the list that Sarah already reviewed, and we'll just discuss the items together and come to some conclusions.
All right. I think maybe the first thing to talk about are the 3 points that Sarah objects to. This is a complicated proposal, and I don't think we should spend some time unless on features of it that the commissioners don't have issues with. So maybe you can start with the 3 issues that staff has an issue with. Yeah.
The one thing that I didn't hear about, and I guess maybe people are okay with it, but I was more wondering about the greenhouse and tinted material versus clear.
Okay, that's item 4. Why don't we go through those 4 things, and then other commissioners have issues, we'll add them to the list.
Got it.
Okay, the first issue that appeared to have discussion required was the storm windows. Do we want to start with that?
Sure, go.
All right. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of storm windows, but they are existing on this duplex, and I would guess they're from the 1960s. They were probably, they definitely were originally just mill finish aluminum, you know, like a gray metal. And then over time, somebody has painted the frames, but they have not painted the sashes. So you have peeling paint on the aluminum frames, and the sashes are still, they're kind of the deteriorated. Now that is actually one that's been replaced. A couple of them are newer, but most of them are this older model like that one. And you can see the paint isn't looking too good on the frame. And the other issue we're dealing with is a lot of these storm windows have damaged screens. They have missing sashes. They have sashes that don't operate. So we've looked into it, and we can't find anybody that can find replacement parts or has the interest in even doing the work. We really want to remove the storm windows because we want to preserve the historic windows, which are in pretty good shape, except for one thing. The glazing compound on the windows is in really bad shape. So we're going to get in there and work on those historic wood windows, repair all the glazing compound, repair any damaged wood, and paint those inside and out to protect them and save them. The storm windows, my opinion is it's going to be better to just replace those with new storm windows so that we have operable storm windows that aren't missing parts and pieces. And at this point, that's our preference for the storm windows.
I just want to be clear. It's your testimony that there are no wood storm windows on this building. These are painted aluminum, run-of-the-mill commercial storm windows from the 60s.
That's correct. Yes, there are no historic storm windows on this property. They're all, I would guess, from the 70s, just based on the profile and the look of them.
And it's also your testimony that many of them are deteriorated, missing pieces, or stuck, or otherwise dysfunctional.
Yeah, there's broken glass, missing sashes, and inoperable sashes. So they're kind of a nightmare, honestly, visually and just functionally.
Having been through the same problem myself, issue myself with storm windows, they do have a life that eventually comes to an end. The other commissioners have an issue with replacing the storm windows with, I would assume, white factory painted aluminum storms.
That is a very small profile, the triple track. So it's a very minimal frame and minimal appearance. The main thing we want to do is protect the historic windows, honestly. That's why we're proposing this. If we're not permitted to replace the storm windows, we'll just deal with the existing conditions, but we're not going to spend money painting the storm windows, and it's going to be a detraction, I think, from the appearance of the house. And for the tenants that are residents of it, they're going to have a hard time with these storm windows because of the inoperability.
I don't want to cut you off, but my question is, do any of the other commissioners have an issue with the storm window replacement, given the information we've got?
Nope. I think we should move on.
Yep, no issues.
Agreed? All right, next.
All right. The shingles, we understand there's two colors from GAF Slate Line that are the approvable shingles from the Victorian Village Commission. We've used those before. We just looked at the brick color and we thought that this royal color was just looked better, honestly, visually with the brick. So it was an aesthetic decision on our end to try to get approval. I'm not necessarily against the shingles that are on the approved list. We just thought with this house and this color brick, it just looked better visually. That was our only decision.
The profile is there's a little less black than on Slate Line, but the other difference is the variation in color. Would that be fair?
Well, it is Slate Line. It's another Slate Line color.
Oh, okay. I'm
just
there's less black because the picture's from further out.
I think it looks like less black because of the colors that are in the blend of the shingle. I think it's very similar. It's just less contrast.
Oh, I see no, my eyes played tricks on me. It's less black because the picture's from further away.
Are we sure it's not too blue?
I don't think that picture is a really great depiction of it, honestly. We had sent a picture along yesterday, but we were, I guess, past the deadline.
I don't think it's less blue than English gray. I think it's got. I don't see an issue with this. Does anybody else? I'm not the architect here, but I mean the only thing inappropriate it's really blue on this screen that I'm seeing that's been projected. On my own screen, it's very gray. It's much less blue.
I'll say when I looked at it on my computer, it was also less blue than it is showing up on the shared screen. It was just a variation between the shingles, whereas the other approved colors appear to be closely related between all the rows of shingles. The Royal Slate just had variation in between individual colors of shingles.
More Royal Slate, I think, attempts to capture the variation in the old slate roofs.
Sarah, could you
that's
go
really
to
the point of it.
Sarah, could you go to sheet A1.30 in our submittal documents?
Yeah, no.
We have a photograph in there.
Moving this
It
down
shows
there.
it next to the brick. And that helps you understand, I guess, a little more about why you could zoom in on that photo there. You can see the color. That's in the sunlight. We thought it looked really good with the brick, and it doesn't look blue at all, honestly.
I think it looks good to me. What if it was okayed as a test case?
I don't think, yeah, we could okay it as a test case, but I don't think there is anything in the code that makes something that's not on our approval list automatically inappropriate. It just means that we have to go through the administrative step of approving it.
That's what I mean. So we'll see it's okay and we can add it.
There you go.
Okay. Let's talk about the greenhouse.
Anybody else have any other view on this, or can we move on?
No concern. Thank you.
No concern.
Hearing nothing. Next.
The greenhouse, it's a quirky little structure that was added to the quirky garage that sits detached off the alley. And yes, it has existing green corrugated panels that are damaged and really moldy, and it also has a collapsing roof structure. But yeah, we wanted to replace it with new green corrugated panels. Most of the panels will be on the roof. And if you go to the photograph that we submitted, Sarah, it shows the greenhouse. The roof is a very shallow pitch. So the roof plane itself, and it faces the house. So there's not a lot of view to even see the corrugated material that's on the roof because of the low pitch and because of the side that it is sitting on, which is
So is that greenhouse made of a series of windows?
Yeah, it's really cool.
What is the grid that I'm looking at?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's got a concrete base, and then it's got these great steel sash windows. That's the grid that you're seeing there, Jeff. And
those are remaining, right?
Yeah, we're going to restore those windows. They're awesome. They're kind of like industrial style steel sash windows.
So basically the top, so what you're saying is just the top, that slant of the shed is the tinted green, correct?
Yes. The side wall above the windows and the roof will be
So I don't have a problem as long as we're saving those windows and we're saving that grid. I think it's very handsome.
This is like for like, isn't it? Except for the fact that the existing is totally covered with scum.
Yeah, it's a different color green, but it's a similar green. Yes, they are green currently. Yeah.
Was there anything else on the list? Something to do with the garage?
Yeah, enclosing the eaves, like putting up fascia board along the edges of the garage to install a gutter, which I understand is important, but it would significantly change the appearance.
Okay, do we have any larger pictures of the garage, or are we stuck with these three pictures here that we've got?
The best thing would be to zoom in on those pictures you're seeing there.
Oh, phooey.
Zoom in on the east elevation. That's probably the best one.
The fascia that we're proposing is not, it's going to be a 1x6, 5.5 inches. I believe the gutter is 5 inches tall. So if the gutter's there, most of the fascia is going to be concealed behind it. So from a visual standpoint, I don't think the fascia basically gives the gutter a surface to be attached to. But we're not going to have a large fascia that's going to come down well below the gutter. It's going to be pretty tight. And I honestly don't think it's going to affect, I mean, putting a gutter on, we need to do because the water is destroying the garage. and the foundation of the garage, but the fascia really is there to give a surface to your gutter.
So why wouldn't you just hang a half round on that?
Well, there's no half rounds on any of the existing house, so that would be, I mean, something different.
Garage is kind of that garage is kind of a little piece to it. I think it's an interesting piece of architecture onto itself versus what the doubles look like.
It is. It's actually built with street pavers. So it's very unique, very quirky. It has that greenhouse on it. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem doing half rounds. At the same time, I could also see it be the same OG profile that we put on the house.
I would agree with Commissioner Hissam that half round solution would be.
Believe it.
I know. Well, it's late in the day. I want to leave you with good thoughts before you take it. No, it's a minimally invasive way to accomplish preservation of structure. Anybody else disagree?
Is there anything to having a K style on the house and a half round on the garage?
That's what we're talking about.
Right. I don't think the gutters have to match, particularly when the buildings are architecturally distinct and built at different times. But you know, somebody could disagree with me, but I don't see that. I mean, the alternative is to start changing the design of the garage around, and we'd like to be minimally invasive if we can.
I think the issue also is, should we have a fascia or shouldn't we? And the fascia forms, it's a structural purpose. It ties together the ends of all the rafters. So there is a structural issue with not having it. And there's holes in the ends of the rafters. So they used to have one. Somebody it was probably rotted out and they took it off. But that's the question. I mean, the gutter people are saying why the gutter attachment is going to be challenging without a fascia. But yeah, you can do the straps up onto the sheathing with a half round. But yeah, not having the fascia is something we need to address here.
Well, so it's your testimony that there's evidence that there used to be a fascia board there. The current existing condition is an aberration from what it was.
Yeah, and it's the right thing to do structurally and also as an install for the gutters, unless we go with the straps and the half rounds.
Yeah, so does that put a different light on it, Mr. Hissam?
No, and do we have pictures that verify that there was a fascia there and they tore it off? I'm not sure there was. Do we have
there's no pictures.
You know, and again, this is a little jewel, and I think it will give us a good reference for people that want to do that, cover up the eaves, do an OG versus hanging a half gutter, which was a common way to do things.
All right. Do we have any more discussion, or do we have?
That's my opinion. I think it would look handsome with hung half rounds, and I think it doesn't have to be like the double in front. And I think it would retain a lot of its quirkiness, and it would solve the problem of wet foundation and any other benches to touch.
Anybody disagree with Jeff? With Commissioner Hissam, I should say. All right. Do we have any
that
issues?
New Commissioner Kevin's taste in color of sweaters. That's what I'm going to say before I leave.
Thanks.
Do we, before Mr. Hissam leaves, Royal Commissioner Hissam leaves, do we have any other issues we need to discuss with respect to this application? Anyone? Can we have a motion to approve as submitted with the exception of the gutter issue? Somebody. Mr. Hissam, you've been talking a lot lately. Please make a motion.
Make a motion as submitted The only variant being that on the garage portion of this application, they keep the eaves open and they use a half-round gutter hung off the shingles.
And does that go all the way around?
Oh, one, yes, it goes all the way around. Then the other thing that Liesel actually added is we actually are okay with the color of the slate line, but we will do a test on that.
All right, very well. Second?
Second. Do you guys want to wait on considering the storm windows? Or are you okay with them being replaced? That was part of.
We're okay with that.
We're okay with the replacement.
And that's what they had proposed to do, so we're okay with that.
Got it. And then just one other thing is usually we require the straps to be under the shingles for the gutters. Do you want to clarify that the straps should be installed under the gutter or under the shingles for the gutters, or do you just not mind?
No, they should be applied correctly and they would be under the shingles.
Great, thank you.
Very well. And who seconded?
Siwo seconded.
And you second subject to those clarifications, correct?
Correct.
All right, further discussion. Hearing none. Sullivan.
Yes.
Siwo.
Yay.
Yay. Moriarty.
Yes.
Klothimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissam.
Yes.
Decker, yes. We act with unanimity once more. Very well. Sir, you have a good day.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Good. See you next month.
I have the same hard stop, guys, at 6.
Do you all want to wait a second because for the nominations? I know we just lost Commissioner Hissam.
I would suggest that we elect a slate of punishing Commissioner Moriarty for her saving us when we had no staff support by not making her treasurer. Commissioner Conyers, who has a lot of experience and can make a lot of meetings, is vice chair and me as chair. Does anyone have any other first off, I'm the chair, so somebody else has to make nominations. That's one possibility. You can always come up with another one.
I will note that I did not have treasurer on here, just chair and vice chair, so I will have to look at that.
We need a treasurer too. This is ridiculous.
Do we? What does the treasurer do?
The treasurer has custody of our money. She or he has access to our bank account. He or she keeps an eye on the chair and makes sure I don't go to Mexico with our money. And every once in a while, the city demands that we come up with a budget. And we were also slothful about that the city now suggests one to you that then you bring to us, we approve, and then eventually you end up giving the money back to the city unless we spend it. We do have a stipend we receive from the city of around $1,500 a year or every 2 years, and we always forget to spend it. Once we spend it on training, but then we ignored the training.
I'll never forget to spend it, so I'll be happy to serve in that role.
Mr. Conyers, would you be happy to be our vice chair?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Does anyone else have nominations for other officers? Liesel, I would have nominated you, but you're too far away now. Somebody has to nominate a slate of officers, and I'm the chair running the meeting, so I can't do that.
I'll nominate Jack for chair, Connor for vice chair, and Moriarty for treasurer.
Do we have a second?
Second nomination.
I'm sorry, I heard a second from Siwo?
Yes, Siwo seconds that nomination.
Very well. Discussion? Any other nominations? Let's go. Sullivan.
Yes.
Siwo. I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Moriarty,
Yes.
Kodheimer,
Yes.
Conyers,
Yes.
Decker. Yes. Okay, we have new officers. Isn't this swell? Aaron, at some point, send me an email and I will take you to the bank and get your name on the account. Or maybe it's at Fifth Third. You may want to move it somewhere, but send me an email. Let's get in touch and figure out how to do this.
All right, sounds good.
I will send you the I will then be able to give you the shambles that are our fiscal records.
Sure. Can't wait.
All right. Do we want to keep going for a while? We've got some other things left on the agenda. Let's try to finish if we can.
All right, we are losing Commissioner Conyers. I see him saying he's leaving. So just for the record, we have 5. And we are moving on to agenda item 7. So this is, the next 2 agenda items are both at 955 Delaware. The item 7 is for the rear porch. Alterations, they're submitting for these alterations to what was previously approved. All work is complete. Rear porch and landscaping were approved at the August 2019 hearing. So what they actually installed is a little different than what was approved. Commissioners at the business meeting asked for a drawing of what was previously approved, and that has been added to the packet. The applicant indicated that the design was modified from what was previously approved to allow a 36-inch landing at each exterior door to meet residential code 311.3. The original COA, this is what I noticed, indicated that the rear steps should be full width concrete or solid stone, and that does not appear to match the material of what was installed. So the layout is different and the material is different. Staff's recommendation here would be to continue this application after the commissioners can give feedback tonight so that the applicant can have this opportunity to consider what the feedback is. And I think that the applicant is on here.
Yes.
Have we an applicant? Please introduce yourself wherever you are.
Brenda Ruff, Dave Fox Remodeling.
My name is Scott Pennick, and I'm also got my homeowner is on a phone call listening in as well.
Okay, Ms. Ruff, are you visible somewhere? Oh, there you are. You swear, there's your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
I do.
You're with the builder?
That's correct.
All right. Do you have anything to say about this part of the application that we have not covered with staff?
Just that this work actually was done by an outside contractor. Where we are finished with our portion of the building, not able to get our certificate of occupancy because of the change. But homeowner was concerned about accessibility to the rear doors. As you can see, what was approved has a minimal landing, really doesn't meet current residential code. They prefer to extend that landing out 36 inches and incorporate that into their patio design.
And if we extended the steps out in the same direction, it would have been another 36 inches, which between the homeowner and the landscaper, again, not our employee, but he and our homeowner, it just ate up what's left of the backyard, plus the addition went out into the backyard substantially. So it's very small backyard as it is, and so we opted for a switchback stair so that it wouldn't, that extra 3 feet wouldn't project out into the yard.
Mr. Holland, I haven't sworn you yet. Are you visible somewhere?
Oh, I'm Scott Hennick is my name. Hennick.
Oh, I'm sorry, Scott.
Okay.
You're the person who's talking. Mr. Holland's our host with the city. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you have given and will give is the truth?
I do. Yes, sir.
Very well. So what we've done is we've changed the depth of this and the orientation of the steps.
Correct.
And nobody thought to have the commission approve this before you did it.
Well, it's a funny thing. I did absolutely want to do that. It was done by a landscaper at the time. We had temporary steps up, and then the landscaper and the homeowner obviously not understanding that it would need to get resubmitted. They just the landscaper just showed up and the steps were built. The homeowner and the landscaper made that decision, and then we were sort of. Then that brings us to this point here in time. So, but
okay,
that was the reason for building them that way. But yes, it should have been discussed before it was built. I agree.
This strikes me as an odd detail, but commissioners, what say you?
I think it gets back to our first conversation of what's a stoop here too. So 36 by 36. I think it's okay. It's not like a deck or anything that came out. And the two doors, I think, match the two existing doors on the structure itself. I don't know. It's a little odd, but I don't really have an issue with it.
Anyone else?
I think it should be, I think it should just be removed.
Then what do we put up?
2 steps.
Well, you need a 3-foot landing outside the door for code.
Well, it doesn't need, well, then it just turns because it doesn't need the handrail. All right. It doesn't need the railing. I'm sorry. It needs a handrail. It doesn't need the railing. So if you turn it, you can just have like a little handrail. It's just the whole thing will sort of disappear.
So you're suggesting turning it so the steps come out straight from the door?
Right.
And then having a light metal or something like that handrail along it to minimize the obtrusiveness of the
right
odd detail here.
Yes.
That's, if I can.
Well, let's before we go back to you, Mr. Sullivan, what do you? You're our remaining you and Liesl are our remaining architects. So, what do you think of that?
I'm fine with the adjusting the handrail. I mean, it is heavy. It's at least at the rear of the house. So, but yeah, lighting it up could help let it fall away more.
Oh, well, all right. Applicant, you're trying to get a word in edgewise. What is that?
Not really. I just, the height of the steps is I believe code. I have to have balusters on. Do I not?
You don't, I mean, there's no fall height issue. So you really just need the handrail.
The projection out into the yard is what we were, the client, my homeowner, was hoping to avoid.
Right. I mean, you could not have any of that railing and just have a handrail, but then it would look funny. Then it would look like you're going to fall off a cliff when you walked out the door.
Yeah.
So is the commission recommending a handrail on either side of the porch?
I don't know if we've come to a decision yet. We're mulling this.
Let me try to bullet point some things. There's not a fall height issue, so you don't need a railing. It's steps, so you do need a handrail. Typically, we would not do like wooden type handrails like you're showing. A handrail would be a thin, like 1.5 inch metal tube Or it could have metal, it could have verticals, like decorative verticals, similar to what you have there. We do not approve fences and I would say rails that are a combination of materials. So if you were to put up a fence that had wood and metal combined, that would not get approved. And this is similar to that. So
Yeah,
in that respect, the railing needs to be adjusted. Next, when you get to the stoop, again, you don't need all that railing. I guess, okay, here's a very simple solution, which I don't like that much still, would be to make all of the railing metal.
I think that's the easy way out. That, you know, it looks a little odd to have this pigeon-toed set of steps coming off the back of a building. That's not typical of the way you would treat a rear entrance. But there are a lot of problems with trying to fix that. But I think you put your finger on something, which is one of the reasons this looks weird is the combination of materials. And the easiest solution is to remove both rails and replace them both with metal railings. Does that work for you, Liesl?
That works for me. It's not ideal, but I think that's going to be the easiest thing to do.
Anyone else see it that way or differently?
I think I like that option with the metal railing.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve as submitted with the tube material rail being removed and replaced with an all metal rail.
Huh? Pull it, Scott, pull it. Yeah, we're going to take the rail off. I'm talking to my homeowner. No. Oh. No, people take this out elsewhere. It's ridiculous.
We're going to approve what we're going to approve. And, you know, the homeowner either has to be online or not. We can't have people communicating this way. So we have a motion, and I assume your design guidance is to have a relatively simple metal rail.
Yeah,
is that what you have in mind, Liesl?
Something simple from Fortin Ironworks catalog.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, further discussion.
Do you want that submitted to staff for review prior to?
Yes.
That would be great.
Is that your motion, Liesl? We forgot that.
Yes, please submit the railing shop drawings or selection to staff.
And whoever seconded it, are you okay with that?
I am.
All right. We ready to vote? Sullivan.
Yes.
Sewo.
Yay.
Moriarty.
Yes.
Kotheimer.
Yes.
Decker. Yes. Motion passes. If the applicant objects to this, you're perfectly welcome, or the owner does, you can come back next month with some alternative, but this is at least gives you something to go with now. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Let's move to the second part of this application.
So
Sarah.
The second part is item 8. This is to do some work on the front porch. The applicant would like to remove basically all of the existing materials, the decking, skirting, railing, steps, and ceiling, install Trex transit steps, risers, and plank decking, 7-inch horizontal smooth hardy porch skirting, porch railing and posts in cedar, wrap the porch columns in this Azek miter lock, and install new hardy fascia and soffit and new gutters. Commissioners at the business meeting had asked for clarification on the age of the dwelling. It was constructed in 2003. There were some questions that commissioners had that the applicant has provided some answers for. So yes, the material at the front porch is similar to what is at the rear porch, or rather the same. The applicant will not be making any changes to the gable end. They updated the rendering to show that the gable end on the primary elevation will not be altered. The Hardy itself is a primed for paint collection, and it will be painted, and none of the landscaping in front of the house will be removed or altered. Commissioners also asked for additional information, which was provided, and that includes a section drawing of the porch showing the skirting condition and the overhang of the porch decking, and a section drawing of the railing, as well as cut sheets for all of the proposed materials. Staff's analysis is that the BVC guidelines recommend 3 to 4 inch reveal and for horizontal siding rather than the proposed 7-inch siding, and that the code and guidelines speak to retaining and repairing existing materials rather than replacing them in kind or with compatible materials. Again, staff's recommendation would be to continue this and allow the applicant an opportunity to amend their application or to receive commissioner feedback.
Okay, any applicant?
Here again.
Do you have anything to add? Or shall we go right to feedback?
Right to feedback.
All right. What think we? I've got a question. What's the decking going to be?
Trex.
What's Trex?
It's a composite material. Trex decking, similar to, well, it's composite.
It's a composite, like recycled plastic stuff?
Well, it's a fiberglass and it has all sorts of materials. It's impervious to weather and insects. That's the whole purpose. Is her deck is showing signs of rotting, and she wants to basically replace it as it is for all intents and purposes, except with maintenance-free materials.
Where would your ends be? The ends of the decking, are those going to be on the sides of the house?
Jack, it's not going to work.
I'm sorry?
That material won't work for this.
Yeah, I've got problems with that issue. I've also got problems with the skirting, which is atypical. If you look at we ordinarily, when you have skirting around here, it's not siding, it's like on there now with vertical members.
Yeah, the client doesn't like that.
Okay, so this kind of goes, this same for the previous application. So the combination material rail is a problem, which
the rail is the same material, it's just painted different colors.
Okay.
The railing is a composite, it's Trex railing. It's just painted different colors to give the appearance of metal. We were actually told that we weren't allowed to use metal. The homeowner wanted metal railing, black metal railing on all of these porches.
I would recommend maybe not doing black and consider the neighborhood and how Victorian houses are typically painted, and maybe the railing color comes from maybe that blue is incorporated instead of black. I don't think black is appropriate here.
Sure.
Yeah, the idea of trying to make it look like an inappropriate materials choice is probably not the way to go.
No. The next thing, okay, so going back to the Trex. So the reason that we don't typically allow these composite decking materials is a couple of reasons. One is that the end is you can't finish the end of it like you would wood. So it has like has grooves in it. And then the second is that it has a faux wood grain to it, which is not allowed in the in Victorian Village. And we have seen a couple that have come through that have improved upon the design to make it look more like wood. And I'm not sure, there was one on Denison that I think we approved, but the Trex material itself is not approvable.
So timber tech or something of that nature would be one of the.
There's some better materials, so we'd have to look at them, but right now there's none that's universally approved. So you'd have to bring something to the table. And there was one on Denison that I think it was a code violation actually, but we ended up approving it. But again, that one, the way they finished the ends improperly. And then the way that you're doing the skirting, so again, typically there would be, I don't know what you call it, a band under the porch, and it would be under the decking.
Yeah.
It would cover up the ends of the decking.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly how they would have been for the period. Again,
So it should have that band there. And then that horizontal skirt would need
so if we change that to vertical, and that material there is hardy. Can I use hardy plank on there?
I would suppose not, since it's a historic, or is it a historic structure?
No, it's a built in 02.
I would guess that's probably okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at an area, if you can paint it to look like wood and find something that's rot resistant, a skirt like this is probably the place you want to put it.
Okay. And then I have another question, and I don't think this is not something we ever talk about, but the door handle. Do we ever give recommendations on door handles? Because the lever isn't really appropriate for the neighborhood.
It's an exterior feature. We often don't notice the door handle, but we can certainly have jurisdiction over it.
Is that changing?
No.
I don't know.
Not that
Is it existing?
I
Okay.
think it's not in the.
Okay.
Can I have a clarifying question? I might have missed it, but were the applicants saying that the railing is one material? Because I believe it has it listed that the railing would be cedar with Trex as the balusters on the right side of the page.
That's correct.
Okay, so it is a two material?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I don't think you want Trex balusters either.
Well, if we go all back to the wood again, I understand completely. I would love to have built it out of wood. And we also have AZEX trim wrapped around the post, which is also a maintenance-free product that also has a wood grain in it. The whole purpose.
You need to avoid wood grain.
Yeah, I'm trying to find materials that are impervious to the insects and the rot.
Boral works well if you're using small amounts of it.
I can use boral?
You sure can.
Okay.
Boral, you might find, is very successful for porch detailing like this. Just be kind of careful because it's brittle. So you got to make sure you've got it all nailed together, so you're not trying to support, something over a long span with it.
So
but I think you can incorporate boral into this successfully, and you can't tell the difference between it and wood when it's painted.
So do you have a recommendation for the decking then? If I can't use Trex, or you don't know the name of that one that you did approve by any chance, or is there a way I can go to an address and find out what it is?
Do you remember approximately where the house was that you are thinking of?
I can look on Street View.
I was just on Deming. So you would rather see a cedar deck, a pine deck? Is there a particular wood that would be?
I don't know that we have a choice in wood because you're going to paint it, so it'll all end up looking the same. So I go for a wooden material that's durable.
So a womanized decking is okay.
If you can paint it, the problem is it's difficult to paint womanized decking, and you don't want to have raw womanized decking out there on your front porch.
Not for as long as it takes to cure before you can paint it.
That's right. You don't want to do that. All right. Do we have? Can we continue this so you can take our design feedback and come back with something final?
I would love to do that.
All right. Do we have a motion to continue? Unless somebody has more feedback to give. We good?
Motion to continue the application.
Second?
Second.
Who seconded? I couldn't tell.
I did. I was going to say that the house on Denison is the first block north of the park.
North of what?
North of the park. And it's on the east side of the street.
All right, further discussion. Were you ready to vote? Sullivan.
Yes.
Siwo.
Yay.
Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Decker. Yay. We're continued. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
You guys have a good evening.
You too now.
All right, what next?
All right, we have one more application, and just to note that it is 6:30. Is everyone okay with finishing the last one?
Let's try to get through this. We've taken a short agenda and made it long, so
this last
let's
one,
get this done. Oh my goodness.
it's at 29 North High Street. It's a non-historic age commercial and office building on the west side of High Street. The applicant would like to install an ATM through the exterior storefront, which does not meet the Short North design guidelines. The building itself was constructed in 2014. Staff initially placed this on the agenda for a conceptual review so that the applicant could take commissioner feedback. However, the commissioners at the business meeting suggested that staff place this project on the agenda for action, and then the commissioners will determine now at the hearing if you're prepared to vote or if you'd like to provide feedback or continue the application. The staff did inform the applicant that the Short North design guidelines recommend installing an ATM within a building lobby, not on the exterior, and with a lighting plan that does not draw attention. At the business meeting, commissioners requested additional materials that have been submitted, and that includes additional photos of the building from straight on and closer, additional detailed drawings, and a rendering showing what the lighting condition will be at night. Staff recommends continuing this application to allow the applicant an opportunity to consider whatever commissioner design feedback may be given tonight. Basis for recommendations and analysis. The Short North design guidelines for ATMs state that the preferred location for ATMs is within buildings and not on building exteriors. And in fact, if an ATM is in an interior, it does not require a certificate. It says when proposed for building alterations, ATMs must not disrupt the streetscape by replacing historic character-defining open storefronts. That's not the case here since this is a 2014 building. If placed on the exterior, ATMs should be designed and installed in the manner that's reversible and should be in the preferred locations, recesses, entries, courtyards, L's, and side elevations. They should not be placed at the most visually prominent or architecturally important facade, and that exterior ATMs should be as small as possible while meeting banking needs. Utilize muted colors, limited amounts of signage, shielded lighting designed to ensure safety but not draw attention, and include a litter receptacle.
Real fast, Sarah, what's the number of the section on the guidelines for ATMs?
3.8.
3.8. Okay, thank you. Who's here from the applicant? Is that you, Mr. Samuelson? Mr. Samuelson, are you representing the applicant? We cannot hear you. You are muted.
Unmute.
Now you're unmuted.
All right. I am here.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do you have something to add to what staff has said?
No, I think everything was accurate and correct. And I do have Bill Brennan with Pizzuti, who also might be a speaker, so he might need to be sworn in.
Mr. Brennan, wherever you are, say something so your picture will appear and I can see you.
I'm here, Jack.
Very well. Do you swear from the testimony you'll give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very well. I would simply point out that at least in my judgment, the guidelines are of far greater concern for an historic storefront than this one. However, they are guidelines which do not distinguish between the two as written. So here we are. What say we, staff? I mean, fellow commissioners.
I would say that there's an awful, or there are at least a few precedents for exterior ATMs, and that I'm generally okay with that. I think that it should sort of go with our signage guidelines and not be internally illuminated and have, you know, obviously it has to be illuminated for safety. So have just regular safety lighting and no internal illumination.
Yeah, I think if you go to
could you explain one of the applicants how this is going to be illuminated?
Yeah, if we could go to the slide, maybe one of the renderings would be fine. The up close or walk up view.
That one?
It's down at the bottom, I think. Yeah, number 9. So the exterior canopy, so this is located in a slightly recessed area on the facade, and it's in an area that actually there's a niche that was created in the lobby, but this canopy has exterior lighting in it. That's the general lighting that you see in that area. And then the sign, the screen, the interactive screen is illuminated, and then the Huntington logo and signature name, I guess, in font on there, and the small green graphic is internally illuminated. There's no exterior illumination to it, but there's a slight glow to those few components to it. Beyond that, there's no other lighting proposed for this ATM. I'd also add that there's no other signage asked of the ATM installer either. This is it.
If this were a sign, we would say it was internally illuminated and inappropriate. Although I don't see a problem with the rest of the illumination package since you aren't changing anything.
I mean, I feel.
So would that be a deal killer if it were externally illuminated only?
I don't think so. I do want to point out that I believe that the Chase installation that is actually in your guidelines does have internally illuminated letters and signage and graphics that have a slight lighting component to it as well. So I was looking at the guidelines, felt we were in line with what was being presented to us.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate choice of photos, but as I recall, that's been there since before the guidelines were adopted in 2011. So that may be, you know, most of the ATMs along High Street predate the guidelines.
Is that right?
I would think. A lot of them are, I'm sure. Some of them aren't. I haven't really done a census of these things.
Yeah, and I personally don't have a problem with that. I'd like to know that there is enough light from the canopy lighting to give them some identity that this is a Huntington ATM, not just a anybody ATM, so that they could have some graphic to it. But Bill, you'll do your discretion on whether having it illuminated or not's required.
I'm just raising an issue. I don't know the answer.
Okay.
And this causes.
Anyone else? Yeah, Mr. Siwo.
Yeah, now, this may help your cause, but my question is, the Huntington ATM that is probably 3 blocks north there, where the main Huntington branch is, would this ATM be identical to that one? So this is a standard ATM that you would be installing with respect to the illumination, among many other items?
This is smaller, but I think I have that ATM in the next
on slide 11.
Yeah, I think if you go to slide 11, there's just in that area, just on the one nice day we had, I think in December, I walked it down and took a quick look at what was in the area in terms of, I don't use ATMs very often. You know, it's not a cash society for me anymore. But that is the ATM that's at the hub for Huntington. The Chase installation is at Victorian Gate, and the First Commonwealth is a Victorian Gate. These are other items that are in the area, and I'd have to zoom into that Huntington to look to see if it was similar. Ours is slightly smaller than that installation, and I think it's a little nicer design than that. We actually don't have the cash drop box because we're not a bank, so we really only have the cash operation of the ATM. So that whole welcome component of this one is not at ours, but that's across the street. That's in Italian Village, correct?
Yep.
Correct.
We aren't responsible for what those people do.
I know.
Never hear that. You guys never hear that argument.
Even though sometimes we are administering the same guidelines. Maybe we ought to go through them one at a time and just see where we're at. Preferred location is within the building. Why can't you put this inside?
This isn't a branch bank. The building lobby that it's in is a business lobby, not a retail lobby, and has different hours of operation. And it should be accessed on the exterior for those off-hour operations.
And you don't have like a vestibule or something to put it in.
We don't have a locking vestibule inside the building.
I'm just trying to make that clear. Okay, so that it would be preferred to put it inside, but that doesn't mean we have to. Secondly, ATMs must not disrupt the streetscape by replacing historic character-defining open storefronts with solid panels or causing irreversible damage to historic materials. This is a new build, and basically you're cutting a hole in the glass.
Yeah, we'll actually be replacing that whole glass panel, but no, it's not something that's irreversible. We'll be able to put the glass panel back.
Right.
Restore.
ATM should be designed and installed in a manner that's reversible and does not damage or obscure in a character-defining feature of the building. We just hit that. If placed in a building exterior, preferred locations include recesses, entries, courtyards, and side elevations, not at the most visually prominent or architecturally important facade of the building. Well, it is on the front, but it's in a recess. So we're kind of in between here, right? Fellow commissioners weigh in. I'm just talking to myself, sort of. Exterior ATMs should be as small as possible while meeting banking needs, muted colors, green, limited amount of signage, shielded lighting, etc. Don't draw into a lot of attention, which may be solved as far as possible by removing the interior lighting, right? Because you're always going to have that exterior light so you can see that it's an ATM, and it should be bright enough to tell it's a Huntington ATM, right?
Nope.
Are the rest of the commissioners following along? And it's not oriented to vehicles, so that's not an issue. So I think, go ahead.
Thank you. Jack, I was going to ask Sarah if she had a chance to look at the application from the Italian Village side. I didn't realize that there was already a Huntington in like a recent installation. I'm just wondering if that one is also interior illumination.
No, I haven't taken a look at that.
Okay. It's hard to tell from the pictures. I'm happy that you provided those pictures from around the neighborhood. It's just hard to see like what it looks like at night because the pictures are during the day.
And it looks like a lot of these, other than Chase, may not be interior illumination.
Yeah.
Can you zoom way in on that Huntington
Right, Pat.
ATM?
Those right Pat letters are so small that.
Well, that one's that's got another kind of problem.
Yeah. My suggestion. Go ahead.
The Huntington and the graphic and their signature H logo is backlit. But I can't be 100% sure of that. I'm fairly certain that would be the case there.
These things are, I mean, we're already bending our guidelines to let you put this very, very close to the sidewalk and make it very, very handy and close to people. But the basic idea of the guidelines is if you do have to put it on the front of the building, you make it as inobtrusive as possible. I mean, that's, I think, what they're trying to get at through all that verbiage. And so my suggestion to the commission is that we approve this as submitted with no interior lighting in the ATM. And then if the applicant wants to come back with additional supporting materials or for some reason can't do that, we can obviously entertain an amendment. Would that work for you today?
Yes, absolutely.
Would that work for my fellow commissioners?
Sounds great.
Yep, sounds good.
Yes.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted, specifying that there would not be any internal illumination to the components of the ATM.
With the exception, of course, of the touch screen, which we can't get around.
Right. And obviously security lighting is fine.
I second.
Commissioner Siwo seconds. Kodheimer had moved. Further discussion. Let's vote. Sullivan.
Yes.
Siwo.
Yay.
Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Decker, yes. Motion passes. That gives you something today. And then, like I said, if it doesn't work, we can take a second look at it if you have additional evidence or this isn't practicable for some reason. Okay?
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Very good. Have a good day. Do we have anything further today to take care of, Sarah?
Nope, just the nominations and elections, which we have already done.
We've done that. So we are done. We usually run 3 hours with commissioners dropping out and exhaustion. So we are 13 minutes under for a bare bones agenda. So thanks. Welcome, new commissioners. This is what we do. Unless we have a highly contentious large development, which is complex and in another even more interesting application of what we do. So there we go. Normally I don't dress up like this. That's how I got caught today. Good night, everybody. Sarah, anything else, or shall we go off and come back in 2 weeks for our business meeting?
The only thing is that I will share Kevin Wheeler's presentation with you all whenever I get it from the public forum at the beginning. And new commissioners, if you have any questions or need anything, just email me. For everybody, I'm available for you guys when you need me.
I can't stress enough the importance of our guidelines and the code, because that's what we really are doing. We're administering a historic preservation code, which is why I sent you, Tom, you've already got it, I'm sure, but so I hope you weren't insulted by my having sent it to you. I didn't want to treat you differently than anyone else, but everybody needs to understand that. At least know, you can't memorize all this stuff, but at least have some idea what's covered and what isn't, because, you know, we operate arbitrarily when we start not having any basis, either the code or the guidelines for what we do. And so understanding where we get the power to do things is important to doing this job right. Also, knowing something about architecture helps. So sometimes I have to lean on the people who do know something about architecture for that. So thank you, folks. Have a good night. Aaron, get a hold of me someday. I think my hearing will end tomorrow. After that, we can organize a field trip to the bank, heavily masked, and take care of making you the official treasurer. Okay?
Sounds great. Thanks, Jack.
Have a good night, everybody. And our bylaws allowed to do not have an end limitation when we can have officer elections. So if the new commissioners want to stage a revolution, and you're perfectly welcome to do so at any time. All right, folks. Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Night.
You good, man?
Yeah, do I just need to stop the recording and it will automatically save? Is that right?
Yeah, it'll stop. And since she is the creator of the meeting, it'll go to her cloud.
Sorry, hold on one second. Real quick. Sorry, what's that?
It should go directly to her email once you stop the recording. So yeah.
Oh yeah, if I just hit stop the recording.
Yep, that's it.
All right, I'll do that and then we'll be good to go.
All right, that's it, man.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too. Have a good night.
Yep, later.